with Sheila and Teresa. Hi there, I'm Teresa.
Hi, I'm Sheila.
Hi, welcome to Talk About Weddings with Teresa and Sheila. And hi, I'm Sheila.
Hi, I'm Teresa. How are you doing today, Sheila?
Doing great.
Good, good. You've been busy?
Yeah, been busy. Again, planning for a little vacation time away from work.
You are so sensible. I'm telling you, everybody who is self-employed should definitely schedule in some time off.
Every quarter, I need a little break.
I'm just grateful for 2 weeks, but if you can get every quarter, that's good for you.
Yeah, try to sneak it in.
Yeah.
Been around so long now that that's like priority, just to kind of keep stress level down. It's like getting a good massage. You need a little vacation.
You do. So my next vacation is actually, we're having a wedding on a Saturday, flying Sunday, a wedding in England on Tuesday, and then flying back Thursday for the next wedding. So I'm not sure it's really a vacation.
Yeah, no, that's quick.
Yeah, it is quick, but
It's a long flight too.
it is a long flight. Yes.
But it's got to be nice to go home.
I'm excited. So yeah, I'm excited to actually be a guest at a wedding.
Yeah, I never get to be a guest.
No, it doesn't happen very often, does it?
And if I am, then I'm constantly picking this up or doing that or helping.
I'm practicing not having an opinion.
That's not possible.
I know it's going to be tough, but
I cannot get through that.
I know. My daughter said, I bet it takes you 5 minutes before you tell the venue that you have your own venue. I said, no, because I've already contacted the venue about a surprise. So guess what? They already know I have a venue.
I like to stay in the background when I go to a wedding, and always end up feeling like I need to help out.
Oh, I don't want to help. And they've got cows, so I'm very excited to go and see some cows. Ian won't let me have cows, and I'm very sad about it. So I'm going to enjoy their cows instead. So it'll be good. So what do you want to talk about today?
We're going to talk about Cakeage.
Cakeage?
Yeah.
I bet nobody's heard of that before.
You being a bakery owner and you having all the bakery experience, it would be great for you to take a lead on it.
Okay, well, I have quite strong opinions about cake and Cakeage, but there you go. Yeah, nothing new there then, is there? So we've run into this situation a few times where our couples have chosen to have their cake made by a third party who is going to drop the cake off, which is fantastic if that's what they want to do, whether that's a large grocery store or it's a professional baker. But then there becomes the problem of several hours later, who's going to cut the cake? And I think it's something that our couples should definitely consider in their planning phase. Because here's the thing. If a caterer hasn't baked the cake, they're under no obligation to cut that cake for you. Some of them might, because they're nice people. The planner hasn't probably got cutting cake in her contract to say that she's going to take care of cutting the cake. And the venue almost definitely don't want to be involved in cutting the cake. I have done it. Obviously, I know how to cut a cake because of bakery. But I feel that it should be something that our couples discuss prior to their wedding day. Because if at 8 o'clock at night there's suddenly, well, who's going to cut the cake? And Auntie Karen says, I'll do it. Well, if they've never cut a cake before and you've paid them, I don't know, $800 for your cake, you do not want Auntie Karen cutting that cake into bits and pieces. And often couples want to save the top tier. And if somebody is helping who doesn't know what they're doing, that might not happen. And often, if you spend $800 on your cake, do you not want it presented nicely on a plate for your guests to be able to receive that? So here's the thing. Either have cupcakes, which I hate. I hate cupcakes, you know that, but I'm just saying, have cupcakes. Or have a conversation with all of the parties involved. A caterer possibly will do it and charge you for it. And that's what I want to talk about, the why vendors may charge you and you might consider it to be an upcharge, why they will charge you to cut that cake if they didn't bake it. Now, obviously, if a caterer has provided that cake, the cutting service is almost definitely going to be in it. But if you say to your planner, oh, we're cutting the cake at 8 o'clock, and your planner says, okay, so we want to take in the cake too, and you haven't thought about it, that's kind of a problem.
Yeah.
So, would you cut a cake, Sheila?
Well, I have. And I do know how because I've been in it 3 decades, but it is not typically something I do. When I'm working with a couple on their timeline, every single one who's going to cut the cake. And 99% of the time, oh, I don't know. And there's very few cake vendors because they drop off at 2 o'clock for a 4 o'clock ceremony. They're not there to cut the cake. And there is a charge if they have to stay for 2 to 4 hours until, well, way more than that, before it's time to cut the cake. So they do charge to stay, and you're paying a by-the-hour fee, typically, on when they're going to be cutting the cake. So that gets a little expensive for most couples. A lot of caterers do, but not all caterers will cut the cake. They're like, just cut that filet, but, cutting the cake is not our expertise.
Well, the thing is, it's not just about expertise, is it? It's about the fact that they're then taking a liability for something that they didn't make. They have no control over the ingredients. They have no control over the quality. And then if they're 3-tier, that's a lot.
You don't cut it right. You could have a curving or a falling cake.
Well, and not only that, you can also, the liability of taking apart a 3 or 4-tier cake and, you drop one on the floor and then somebody's upset with you.
Yeah.
But notwithstanding the fact that if they've done table service, say at 5 o'clock, and then you're going to do speeches and first dances, you're now expecting your caterer to stay longer to cut the cake. So, oftentimes we see the cake isn't cut until well after dinner or well after speeches.
Typically for me, 7:30 to 8.
Right. So if the caterer's cleaned up and ready to go, and then you're asking them to provide utensils and crockery and a member of staff to cut the cake, and probably 2 members of staff to cut the cake, because one to cut, one to serve, it's only reasonable that they should be paid for that.
Yeah.
So
I totally feel like they should. I feel like whoever is cutting the cake, and I tell all couples, if you have a grandmother, an aunt, or somebody that's done it before and they want, you can have anyone cut your cake if you've got somebody in the family. But that's not typical because the last 15 years, we typically don't have a whole lot of aunts passing out a registry or cutting the cake like it used to be.
Right.
So most of the younger couples do not have an aunt or someone that knows how or they want to cut the cake. If a caterer is being asked to cut the cake and it's the service they provide, they should charge, because if dinner is at 5:30, 6 o'clock and your cake is being done at 7:45, 8, they have served, cleaned up, and loaded, and they have to have, 1 to 2 team members to stay and cut the cake. And taking apart layers with the pillars and columns and piping inside, it is not for the easy-hearted, because accidents can happen. So there are a lot of caterers that do not want to touch the cake. So we're here at this choice. If your caterer does not cut the cake, and you do not hire your cake designer to cut the cake, or a lot of cake designers, that's not an option, then you are going to have somebody cut the cake. So if it comes to that, I will. But let me tell you why I typically don't as a planner. Is I'm the one that is leading and spearheading that whole reception, working with the photographer, the videographer, and the DJ on everything that's happening. Okay, we're getting ready to do the first dance. Okay, now we're going to be going into the blessing. We need to call up the best man for the speech. And even though I have a timeline and the DJ is well aware and the videographer and photographer know at this time, this is what we're going to do. But if we're just off 5 minutes because a couple need a moment alone or restroom time, I have to constantly be aware to try to keep everybody together. So all the vendors are available for whatever is going on. So I'm thinking of, when they're cutting the cake, I'm already on to our next project. Okay, are we going to throw a bouquet? Are we going to have a generational dance? Like, those are the things. So I'm in the background going over, making sure, okay, we're going to do generational dance, 5 minutes, we're good to go as soon as the cake is cut. So if I'm over there spending 30 minutes cutting the cake, there's really no directional going on with the other vendors. So because planner's responsibility is to lead that role and maintain vendor relations during that reception, making sure the couple's happy and have what they need, there's not a 30-minute cutting cake allotment. And what you pay for your planner you'd be better off to pay for your cake person.
Well, yes, because if you're busy planning,
Planner doing the planner.
you're then going to have a member of staff who might cut the cake or be the interim planner.
Yeah.
So there is a cost involved. There is a liability involved in taking care of it. And notwithstanding the fact that also the cake knives, the plates, the serving utensils, they don't wash themselves. So they've all got to be taken care of later on.
I also want people to realize, I don't know why, but a lot of brides are like, oh, does the caterer provide the forks and the plates for the cake? And I'm like, no, there is no caterer that is automatically thinking about your cake cutting.
Not unless they have provided the cake service.
Unless, yep, that's you.
Yes, it is.
And so then you have to ask them, will they provide it? And if so, there's an upcharge.
Yes, and I can't tell you how often cake knives and serving utensils are also forgotten. They're the most frequently forgotten thing at a venue, that somebody, oh, I thought such and such would bring that, and they haven't. You're lucky if you come to us because we have them, because I'm a cake girl.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's something that definitely needs to be addressed much more openly and readily, and it's part of your budget. It's not just, oh, well, I can just go and get a cake for, I don't know, $200 from a local grocery store, because you're going to pick that up and then there it stands.
Yes. Good. Yeah, you have to have everything goes with it and the whole service.
Yeah, so it's part of a budget, and you know, don't just neglect that part of your budget and think, well, why should I have to? And the reason we're bringing this up is I actually heard a podcast the other day berating a venue for charging for the service of somebody cutting a cake, and they felt that it should just be a goodwill gesture.
Yeah.
And honestly, Sheila, I mean, we've had a situation where there was nobody to cut a cake, and Ian said, oh, Teresa, can you come and help? And of course I did. And of course I wasn't going to charge the bride, because it was a when things go wrong situation, you know, where nobody had thought about it and everybody said, well, I'm not, and it's not me. And I wasn't going to have a bride upset about this service not happening because she had this massive cake that needed dealing with. And actually, Ian's quite a good little serving boy when I need him to be. I was cutting this cake and him to get that out there, and it worked great. But it's not a service that I want to provide on a regular basis. So I feel that our couples definitely need to take it into consideration that it's a part of your budget, that you need to basically find somebody, and if that's Auntie Karen doing it, great, if she's going to do a good job, but just also be aware that if Auntie Karen says that she can cut a cake, can she? Because it's not like cutting a birthday cake.
And if it's not pretty, then you just need to
go with the flow. Yeah.
And every single bride, everyone can't be stressed enough. When you're ordering a cake, you also need to figure immediately your plan for your plate and your flatware and cutlery.
And napkins.
Everything.
You need extra napkins.
Cake serving. You got to have that in the bag for that serving for those photos. Now, the planner, but we also have to remember a lot of people that are listening to our podcast may not hire a planner.
Right.
So that's the whole reason we were doing this, is for those brides that may not have access to a videographer. Why would they want one? And they might hear something on the podcast that would be like, oh, that's what I want. Or getting advice for DIY brides as well.
Or even those that have a day of coordinator, because I'm pretty certain that a day of is not going to want to be taking 30 minutes out to go and cut a cake for somebody. Mm-hmm. So yeah, for the DIY or the more budget conscious ones, put it in your budget, because it is going to happen. Or sadly, buy cupcakes.
Right. Well, I love the cupcakes. Be special. Give me a little choice. I like that. But some brides really want that cake cutting experience. So they're doing smaller cakes. But when I see a 4 or 5 tier cake and cutting it, I'm like, that if you're going to have a big grand cake, then you need a professional.
And those suckers are heavy. When you want to disassemble that, they are heavy.
Yeah.
So yeah. A dessert bar. That's my recommendation. Go for a dessert bar. No cake cutting involved then. Just the little picture for this one.
I tell that to all my couples. If cake is not your thing, don't do cake.
Exactly.
Cheesecake. If you love, well, we did.
Well, if you have cheesecake.
Cookies and milk.
Which is perfect. But if you have cheesecake, make them minis. Don't have a big cheesecake, because guess what? Somebody's still got to cut it.
That's true. That's true. But a pie or that could be a little, you could have a little self-cutting, but somebody's going to take a big.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we touched upon that today because that is something that I discuss with every single bride. Is like, okay, let's get everything we need for the cake. Do you have your cake topper? Do you have your cake stand? Do you have a serving set? Because I have 20. Do we have plates? Do we have a cutlery? And who's cutting that? Like, people think about the cake, but they don't think about everything that goes. The cake is almost its own event. It's its own section and that reception. So we have to think about it as a whole. Or order macaroons.
Order macarons, exactly. Or, I mean, the other thing, just to touch on shortly, is that, where is the cake being cut? Is it going back to the kitchen? Is there a kitchen that it can be cut in? All of those things have to happen as a conversation before your wedding day.
Yeah, agree. But we're going to finish this conversation for here. And
Very good.
It was a good one.
It
Thank
was.
you for leading that one up. And for everyone that had listened to today's podcast, please like, share, and follow.
Bye.